Hi guys, welcome to ExamDebug. We're going to do another Python 3 tutorial today. And now we're going to be looking at inputs and outputs from files. So we're going to be looking at how to read a file, how to write to a file, and a couple of different ways that we can do various things. So to start with, I'm going to write to the file because I think that's more interesting on the whole. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. I'll show you both. I'll show you the nice way that I like first, and I think you probably should do it this way. And that's when we use this with. So with open, and then we write the name of our file. So in this case, I'm going to call mine, let's call it my file.text. Now here we have an option, and inside here I'm going to put W. Now W stands for write. So it's basically saying what I want to be able to do to this file. So I want to be able to write to it. Later we'll see when we're reading it, we'll change it to R. But the other one you need to think about now is A, which is append. So if instead of just writing to the file, we just wanted to add to what's already there, we would use A instead of W, because we wouldn't want to lose something. I'll show you that later when we do the next style. So anyway, we've got that, and then we say as. So what do we want that file to be known as inside of our program? So this is the name of the text file outside of the program. What do we want it to be called inside? So I'm just going to call it file. Yeah, I could call it my file, I could call it anything I like. This is just like a variable. And I need to finish with a call. So now in here, all I have to do is file.write row, and then I could have another one, file.write row, and file.write row. Now this is just me singing songs, as in row row your boat. So now if I run it, you see I don't get anything going on down here, but if I were to go in here, and you'll see, what did I call it? My file. You'll see I've got my file here. If I click on here, you'll see that it's added stuff in. Look at row, row, row. Now the first thing you'll notice is that they're all squished together. So I could fix that, of course, by putting in spaces on each line. And then if I run it, there will be spaces between them. But what if I wanted to put them onto a new line? Well, to do that, I would have to put \n to put it onto a new line. So if I stick \n inside all of them, or is it /? Whatever slash that is, followed by an n, and that means put it onto a new line. So if I save it and I run it, again you'll just get the general it has run thingy. And if we go into my file, you'll see that it's now put them onto nice new rows. One thing I would say to be careful with is if you do run a file, if you do run this program, like if I run it now, and I look at the text file, you see that it's not changed anything. I have to reopen it in order to see the changes that have been made. Okay, now that's the way I'd suggest you do it. But of course it's up to you. The other option many people do is they say file, or I'm going to say, yeah, I'll still call it file just so we don't get confused. File equals open, and then we can do the same thing. My file.txt, and this time we're going to append. Now we don't need the as file because we've said file equals. Now if we say file.write, I need to copy this with keyboard issues. Now if we do that, that's going to work. But the thing is, when we do it this way, is we always have to put file.close on the end to say close the file once we've opened it. Now If you don't do this, sometimes it will write stuff, and other times it won't write stuff. But so you always have to put it in. I don't know why it sometimes works, but sometimes it won't work if you don't put this in, which is to say let go of the file and close it. And often that's flushing out the buffer and something like that, which is outside the scope of today. But people forget this oh so many times, they get confused and they don't know why it's not working. And that's why personally I prefer this kind of thing. Okay, but so down here we have file open text, file.write, file.close. So let's save it and run it. And so if we go to my file, we've got row your boat. Now just to prove a point, if we were to change this to a W, I should have probably tried this beforehand in case it goes wrong, but it should overwrite what we wrote before because we are writing. So that's the big difference between write and append. Okay, so be careful with that. If you can't understand why it's overwriting stuff, then it's probably because of the write or append options. Notice you can put in file.write, 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 but as soon as you close, then it would override the other ones, if that makes sense. It won't. If I put in file.write, then this line will not overwrite this line if it was a W. It only, because it's not until the close. Everything in here would still get written. Okay, for the read one, I think I'll just do that as a separate video to keep it a bit more tidy. But hope that helps. If you get any questions or comments, give me a shout in the comments. See you soon.